Section 19 of Sun, Moon, and Stars, Astronomy for Beginners. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Read by Donald Warren. Sun, Moon, and Stars, Astronomy for Beginners by Agnes Giberne. Uranus and Neptune. He hath showed his people the power of his works. Psalms 111, 6. Till the year 1781, Saturn was believed to be the outermost planet of the solar system, and nobody suspected the fact of two great lonely brother planets traveling around the same sun at vast distances beyond. Uranus, 900 millions of miles from Saturn, Neptune, 1,000 millions of miles from Uranus. No wonder they remained long undiscovered. Uranus can sometimes be seen by the unaided eye as a dim star of the sixth magnitude, and when he was known for a planet, it was found that he had been often so seen and noted. Again and again he had been taken for a fixed star, and as he moved and disappeared from that particular spot, it was supposed that the star had vanished. One night, when Herschel was busy exploring with a powerful telescope, he noticed something which he took for a comet without a tail. He saw it was no mere point of light like the stars, but had a tiny round disk or face which could be magnified. So he watched it carefully and found in the course of a few nights that it moved, very slowly certainly, but it did move. Further watching and calculations made it clear that though the newly found heavenly body was at a great distance from the sun, yet it was moving slowly in an orbit around the sun. Then it was known to be a planet and another member of the solar system. Everybody supposed that now at least the outermost member of all was discovered. But a very strange and remarkable thing happened. Astronomers know with great exactness the paths of the planets in the heavens. They can tell, years beforehand, precisely what spot in space will be filled at any particular time by any particular planet. I am speaking now of their movements around the sun and in the solar system, not of the movements of the whole family with the sun, about which little is yet known. Each planet has its own particular pathway, its own particular distance from the sun, varying at each part of its pathway, its own particular speed in traveling around the sun, changing constantly from faster to slower or slower to faster, according to its distance from the sun and according to the pull backwards or forwards of other neighboring planets in front or in rear. For as the orbits of all the planets are ovals, with the sun not in the middle, but somewhat to one side of the middle, it follows that all the planets in the course of their years are sometimes nearer to and sometimes farther from the sun. The astronomers of the present day understand this well and can describe with exactness the pathway of each planet. This knowledge does not come merely from watching one year how the planets travel and remember for another year, but is much more a matter of close and difficult calculation. It seems to be the will of God to govern commonly things in the heavens as he governs commonly things upon earth by certain regular laws of working. Laws of nature we call them, though laws of God would perhaps be a truer expression and reach higher. There was a great astronomer named Kepler who discovered some of the wonderful laws by which God governs the movements of the planets in their orbits. Kepler's 3 laws are often spoken about, by which is meant 3 laws of God's working in nature discovered by Kepler. Before these laws and others were understood, the movements of the planets were a constant puzzle. Now that they have been clearly grasped, astronomers can not only perceive, as it were, the plan of all the planets' journeys, but can draw out beforehand a scheme or sketch according to these laws, telling exactly what the pathway of any one planet is sure to be. Many things have to be considered, such as the planet's distance from the sun, the sun's power of attraction, the planet's speed, the nearness and weight of other neighboring planets. All these questions were gone into, and astronomers sketched out the pathway in the heavens which they expected Uranus to follow. he would move in such and such an orbit, at such and such distance from the Sun, and at such and such rates of speed. But Uranus would not keep to these rules. He quite discomfited the astronomers. Sometimes he went fast, and according to their notions, ought to have gone more slowly. And sometimes he went slowly, when they would have looked for him to go more fast, and the line of his orbit was quite outside the line of the orbit which they had laid down. He was altogether a perplexing acquaintance, and difficult to understand. However, astronomers felt sure of their rules and modes of calculation, so often before tested, and not bound to fail, they made a guess at an explanation. What if there were yet another planet beyond Uranus, disturbing his motions, now drawing him on, now drawing him back, now so far balancing the Sun's attraction by pulling in the opposite direction as to increase the distance of Uranus from the Sun? It might be so, yet who could prove it? Hundreds of years might pass before any astronomer in his stargazing should happen to light upon such a dim and distant world. Nay, the supposed planet might be like Uranus, actually seen, and only be mistaken for a variable star, shining but to disappear. There the matter seemed likely to rest. There the matter probably would have rested for a good while, had not two men set themselves to conquer the difficulty. One was a young Englishman, John Couch Adams, the other a young Frenchman, Leverrier, both being astronomers. Each worked independently of the other, neither knowing of the other's toil. The task which they had undertaken was no light one, that of reaching out into the unknown depths of space to find an unknown planet. Each of these silent searchers into the sky depths calculated that the orbit and speed of Uranus would be without the presence of another disturbing planet beyond. Each examined what the amount of disturbance was, and considered the degree of attraction needful to produce that disturbance, together with the direction from which it had come. Each, in short, gradually worked his way through calculations far too deep and difficult for ordinary minds to grasp, till he had found just that spot in the heavens where a planet ought to be to cause, according to known laws, just such an effort upon Uranus as had been observed. Adams finished his calculations first and sent the results to two different observatories. Unfortunately, his report was not eagerly taken up. It was, in fact, hardly believed. Leverrier finished his calculations also and sent the result to the Berlin Observatory. The planet was actually seen in England first, but the discovery was actually made known from Berlin first. The young Englishman had been beforehand, but the young Frenchman gained foremost honor. This, however, was of slight comparative importance. The truly wonderful part of the matter was that these two men could have so reasoned that, from the movements of one lately discovered planet, they could point out the exact spot where a yet more distant planet ought to be, and that close to this very spot the planet was found. For that when both in England and in Germany powerful telescopes were pointed in the direction named, there the planet was. No doubt about the matter. Not a star, but a real new planet in the far distance, wandering slowly around the Sun. This was indeed a triumph of human intellect, yet it is no matter for human pride, but rather of thankfulness to Him who gave to man his marvelous reasoning power, and the very delight we have in such a success may humble us in the recollection of the vast amount lying beyond the utterly unknown. Perhaps the chief feeling of satisfaction in this particular discovery may be said to arise from the fact that it gives marked and strong proof of the truth of our present astronomical system and beliefs. Many mistakes may be made, and much has often to be unlearned. Nevertheless, if the general principles of modern astronomy were wrong, if the commonly received facts were a delusion, such complete success could not have attended so delicate and difficult a calculation. We do not know much about these two outer planets, owing to their enormous distance from us. Uranus is in size equal to 64 Earths, and Neptune is in size somewhat larger than Uranus. Both of these planets are formed of decidedly heavier materials than Saturn, being about as dense as water. The size of the Sun, as seen from Uranus, is about 1/390th part of the size of the Sun we see. To Neptune, he shows a disk only 1/900th part of the size of that visible to us, no disk at all, in fact, but only star-like brilliancy to any such eyes as ours. The Uranian year lasts about 84 of our years, and this, with a very sloping axis, must cause most long and dreary winters, the tiny sun being hidden from parts of the planet during half an earthly lifetime. Uranus has at least 4 moons, traveling in very different planes from the plane of the ecliptic. Once it was thought that he had 8, but astronomers have since searched in vain for the other 4 believed for a while to exist. Neptune has 1 moon and may possess others not yet discovered. End of section 19.